Okay, it's dark, it's winter, and this is my garden. Well, not too dark, but not nice and bright and sunny like it normally is. I'm just going to pan round and show you how awful my garden is. This is what happens to a garden when the person who owns the garden is too damn depressed to do anything about the garden. Okay, so moving down here, this is my wisteria. Looking pretty dead at the moment, although it's not dead. Due to the fact that it's winter time, the wisteria has no leaves, so it's looking a little bit skeletal at the moment. This wisteria used to grow right up the side of this drain pipe here, right up to the top there, gutter pipe, and up to there. And if you look, you can see bits of it still poking out there. That's bits of wisteria, and all the way along here, there's some bits there hanging down, and it even got into my loft. It was so invasive. That plant there is not part of the wisteria. If it was, it wouldn't have any leaves. That is just growing in the gutter, and obviously at some stage I need to get that out of there. Anyway, panning down from there and coming down to back to where I started, let's pan across the garden. Okay, down here is a big pile of rubbish. This pile of rubbish basically consists of all the rubbish that I collected last summer, which I've dumped here, which obviously needs to be thrown away. On top of that, you can see there are some other bits of plant matter which I've thrown on there, which I picked more recently. I do need to get rid of it, unfortunately. I've just not had the right state of mind to chuck it away, so I'm probably going to chuck that away soon. I need to either take it to the tip or get a skip to chuck it all in. I need to sort that out. I do have a bin which I can burn things in, but obviously at this time of year everything's far too wet to burn, so that won't burn at all. Over there is a swing which my daughter used to use. She's 14 years old now, so she's not going to be using that anymore. It's still works, but I think she sometimes sits on it in the summer and listens to her music, but she doesn't really swing on it anymore. Over here is a coniferous sort of shrub or tree, which not really a tree, it's more of a bushy shrub type thing, which I planted some time ago. My wife at the time hated it, said I planted it in completely the wrong place, but more recently when she's seen it, she's says it looks okay. Yeah, I think it's okay. It doesn't bother me. If you zoom in, you can see it has tiny sort of cone type things on it. And over here I have another coniferous tree, a pine tree which has pine cones on it. And if I scan up, I can probably see some pine cones on there somewhere. Let's just zoom out and see if I can see where they are. Yep, there we are, pine cones. Those are pine cones on my pine tree, which actually I planted some time ago, and when the garden got extremely overgrown, the pine tree disappeared. I didn't even know I had that pine tree, and all the stuff that was around here, down the bottom here, when I cut it back, I suddenly realised that I had a pine tree. So if you look at the bottom of this pine tree, it's a little devoid of branches and so on, so that's really where it was starved of light. But it seems to be doing all right now. At the top there, it seems to be quite healthy. If I can zoom in on that a bit more, yeah, it looks quite nice up there. So that is my pine tree. And if I come down, oh, there's another cone there. If I come down there, over there, you can see there's lots of ivy. That extends all the way to the back of the garden and is now covering most of the garage at the back of the garden. But hey ho, I might get to deal with that at some stage. I've got a bench here which I picked up some time ago from the local tip. Brought it back. It's I like the colour of it. Obviously at the moment it's completely covered in muck and cannot be sat on, but in the summer I quite like to sit on that. In fact, sometimes I lay on it and pass out for a while, wake up with sunburn. Not a great idea, but hey ho. At the back of the garden, if I go right to the back there, I've got some bamboo which I planted some years ago. It's gone absolutely crazy. It's completely covered the back of the garden. In fact, there is a route back there towards the garage at the back of the house, but which is almost impossible to get through because that bamboo, so I'm going to have to get a machete out or something and chop that down. But it's quite interesting. Here I have got a copper bark birch, and I bought this some years ago, and at the time that I bought it, it was so small that I could fit it in the car and bring it home. Literally just laid it down along the back seat. It's huge now. It's a really chunky tree, lovely, beautiful copper coloured bark, and it's really grown quite big. Obviously at this time of year, it being a deciduous tree, it has no leaves, but when it does, it's a very beautiful tree with the leaves on as well. And if I pan over here, I have a weeping pear, which again has no leaves on it because it is a deciduous tree and the leaves have fallen from it, so it's looking a little bit bare, a bit like the wisteria was. Anyway, if I come over here and back down, scanning down, various bits of rubbish in the garden, a dustbin for waste, which that waste will not fit in there, and that won't burn in there, so I need to think about what I'm going to do with that. Obviously, as I said, get a skip or something, various old buckets and things, old chimney kind of top pot there, chimney pot top. I don't quite know what the name for that is, but I think it's designed to stop the wind blowing through the chimney. It didn't come off my chimney, thanks Mr. Motorcycle Man. And then if I come back down here, scanning over here, the thing that I don't like very much is what's in there. This, I have spent the day collecting up dog poo. That bucket underneath that upturned catlit tray contains dog poo, and I need to dispose of that. That's dog poo that has been in the garden. Basically, I have managed to collect all of that up and put that in there. Anyway, there's a few ridiculous gnomes here which have come from, I think they came from car boot sales and various other places. I know the one in the middle there, he came from a garden centre. He's called Gordon, and I think we got him a bit cheaper than we should have done, because I think he wasn't priced when we picked him up and took him to the counter, and I think the guy who owned the garden centre took a bit of a fancy to my wife and gave us, or my wife at the time, and gave us a reduction on Gordon. But he's quite a nice little character. Panning up here, which was in the original shop, is a bit of old Victorian guttering, which I keep meaning to plant something in, which I will do. Above that is the remains of an external light, which I keep meaning to remove and cover over, because I don't really want a light there. In fact, I'm intending to fit a light further up. In fact, actually, if you zoom in on here, you can see the remains of the wisteria, which was growing down here, and actually that bit is still green by the looks of it. I think that must be I'm sure that's just like a mossy build-up on it or something like that. But yeah, that's a mossy build-up on a dead piece of wisteria. Those are crows in my garden. Anyway, coming back down to the original position where we started, that is my messy garden, which, because when you're not feeling great, it's difficult to do your garden. Hopefully I'm going to get back to it and actually make it look quite nice.